Yeah, David Dread of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to Lion Voice because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here. Hear me now. Oh, yeah, the lion's voice. Raw.
So I want to use this Earth Strong of Empress Menen. Told my brethren, again, how do you select? What were the qualities His Majesty might have seen in Empress Menen? And when you look at the speech he gave at her passing, he said there was nothing that they disagreed on, she never let a third party come in and intervene in any problems that they had with each other. If they had any issues, nobody but them would know. And these are the things. So discretion is a key trait, when you're looking at for a wife. You have to look for a woman who carries herself with discretion. So anybody that's too out there, the youths them would say, for the streets, we leave them out there. These are things we need to be teaching our young brethren so that they select queens in this Armageddon, because it's Armageddon time. We see the inflation, the cost of food skyrocketing. So we don't have no time right now to joke around in the streets right now as Rastafari. We have to return to our militant origin.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion Voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion Voice.
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of his chosen queen, Empress Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka Dejazmatch Kwasi, aka Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Panafrican Happy Man. I'm an entertainment attorney, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I'm the host of the Lion Voice. Welcome to Lion Voice episode 80. We have an extra special episode for the item today because we are going to be celebrating the birth of the mother of the movement, Empress Menen, the balance, the divine balance. She was born April 3rd. Rastafari all over the earth will be celebrating her Earth Strong. So this episode is dedicated to Empress Menen. But before I get into the episode, I have to big up the Lion Pride. We just passed 700 subscribers. Big up the Lion Pride. Big up the Lion Pride on Patreon. You see, I'm talking with my nice microphone that was purchased through the contributions of the Lion Pride on Patreon, because the Lion Pride on Patreon, let me just give them a shout out. They could be just investing in Netflix platform. They could just be investing in Amazon. But you know what? They say they love this type of content. So they invested. They see the vision of where we're going. So if you want to join the Lion Pride on Patreon, you want to become part of the tip of the spear of the movement that we are pushing forward, join the Patreon. Give your support to the platform. The Lion Pride in general is growing every day. That means if you subscribe, you're part of the Lion Pride. So I have to big up all of the people who again love the content, drop in the comments, and so forth. This channel is 95% male participation. This was Women's History Month. We're closing out Women's History Month. So I wanted to give some content. So Lion Talk for the month, we've been interviewing some dynamic Rastafari sistren So I want to just take some time. We're going to seal up with Empress Menen to encourage. If you're a sister, drop a comment and let me know that you are watching the platform, because YouTube will tell me say a beer man on the platform. Because the majority rules in most cases, I want to talk about Empress Menen, but I want to talk to I brethren. We have a lot of brethren in this movement who have baby mothers. They didn't work out with their partner, and what that tells us is that we have a problem or a challenge with mate selection. And I want to use the earth strong of Empress Menen, who by all accounts was a Proverbs 31 virtuous woman. I want to use her life and the example of her and how she connected with His Majesty and how she governed herself with His Majesty as an example of what brethren should be looking for in their mate. And for the sisters who are watching, I want the item to let I know if I'm correct in the assessment. So let Iman know in the comments, if I'm on track, because we have to have both sides to have this conversation. We're having a conversation with the family right now in celebration of Empress Menen, Earth Strong. I don't know if you're going to get this conversation anywhere else on the internet. That means we're going to look at the life of Empress Menen, however, from a brethren perspective in terms of your mate selection. So who was Empress Menen?
Dejazmatch TAFARI wrote this about his wife in his autobiography. Her character is such that, apart from goodness, there is no evil or malice in her heart. Ever since we were married, we lived together, by virtue of her being fertile, in one family sharing joy as well as sadness. After the skirmish of Segele, some nobles, believing it would be impossible to live with Princess Menen after the war with her grandfather, King Mikhail, suggest that she and Rastafari divorce. When Tafari declined the opposition and their marriage was saved, this was surely seen as a test of Menen's strength and honesty. Her resolve to stay with her husband, coupled with her fervent Christianity, were to prove instrumental to Menen's later receiving the highest rank of Empress. It is emphasized in many holy books that marriage is a key to good fortune. It is believed that when a wedding takes place in harmony with God's will, it is blessed with material and spiritual wealth and many children. As their union was not merely an arrangement, but also the will of God, Tafari and Menen had a marriage full of love, peace, and happiness that lasted over 50 years. When life's challenges intruded their marriage, Wazira Menen Asfwa turned to God for guidance.
Empress Menen, let's not get it twisted. She was a royal princess, born on the 3rd of April, 1891. In the province of Wollo, to noble family. She's the granddaughter of the great Negos Mikhail, formerly Muhammad Ali. And if you read Haile Selassie's Ethiopia, my book, we have a whole chapter about Wollo, Ras Mikhail, the rise of Negos Mikhail. And this is a key part of the whole origin story of Tafari Makonnen, because Empress Menen comes from a family that was in direct opposition to her kingman being on the throne of King David. So you see the intrigue. That's why I'm excited to write the future volumes of Haile Selassie's Ethiopia, because people don't know story yet. This is an epic love story, the story of Haile Selassie and Empress Menen. It's an epic love story and mate selection. She was the daughter of Sihin Mikhail and a great nobleman who was Asfa janitor of Ambessel. And I know say my pronunciation is not the best, but see with me because we're telling the story. So she comes from the daughter of Ras Mikhail, whose name was Sehin Mikhail, and she was the daughter of Asfa janitor of the Ambesel region. So these were noble people. She had a noble birth, born into a noble house. You know, she was a princess. But her blessing was also her curse, because she was given in marriage to secure alliances from a young age. You know, she had married 4 times before she married to His Majesty, and she married His Majesty when she was only the age of 20. You know, so her first marriage was at the age of 9. So she was a victim of child marriage. We have to look at it through the lens of the time, because in those times you weren't guaranteed to live to even 30. You know, this was an ancient time. When we talk about Ethiopia of the 19th century, you know, the 1890s, them time there. We're also coming off of the Kefu Khan, which was the evil days, one of the worst famine. So as soon as a woman see her period, she was married off, and, you know, Empress Menen had that fate and had children, had 4 children during this period of turbulence, where these political marriages were being dissolved, and she had no say over this. She's a little girl. You can imagine. Now, Ras Mikael has a son named LIDJ. So that would have been Empress Menen's uncle. His sister, Sahain Mikael, have a daughter, and LIDJ realized when he see the young TAFARI Makonnen, you know, there's an energy. You know, they were at some functions, and according to the testimony, there's some energy there, and LIDJ, not a fool, so he notices. And at this time, you know, there's murmurings, because TAFARI is not a normal youth, or Tafedi, from the Ethiopian perspective. You know, diligent in his studies, excellent in all of his doings, you know, quiet, reserved, but he's an overachiever, you know. And among the princes, this is noticeable. You know, he also is controlling one of the most powerful armies, because of the loyal soldiers that he inherited from his father Ras Makonnen. So he's not a youth without him Bakative, you know, out of Harar region. So everybody's looking at this youth, and Rastafari noticed that he and the niece have a vibes. So a union is arranged. Ras Mikael arranges this, you know, and things happen. They're married in 1911, July 27th. And this is where one of the reasons that I got married, because studying His Majesty, I saw that he was married to Empress Menen. And this is why in Rastafari, marriage is such an important institution. And I'm going to be doing a lot of content on the institution of marriage and the importance of marriage. And because it's Empress Menen Earthstrong, she was married to His Majesty in 1911. I think it's important, because marriage is the building block of the society. Marriage is not about romantic love like how it was said in the West. And I did a show on courting and dating, where we talked about the origin of this ideal of romantic love. Ancient time and throughout history, marriage has always been about families and the unification of families. You know, families vetted suitors for their children. That's why you have to come with a dowry. In some cultures, you have to bring 2 cows. You know, these things were important as the bedrock of society, and it's broken down not only in the wider society but among Rastafari, because we have so many broken homes. So I want to use this Earthstrong of Empress Menen. To my brethren, again, how do you select? What were the qualities His Majesty might have seen in Empress Menen? And when you look at the speech he gave at her passing, he said there was nothing that they disagreed on, you know. She never let a third party come in and intervene in any problems that they had with each other. If they had any issues, nobody but them would know. And these are the things so discretion is a key trait when you're looking at for a wife, you have to look for a woman who carries herself with discretion. So anybody that's too out there, the youths them would say, for the streets, we leave them out there. These are things we need to be teaching our young brethren so that they select queens in this Armageddon, because it's Armageddon time. We see the inflation, the cost of food skyrocketing. So we don't have no time right now to joke around in the streets right now as Rastafari. We have to return to our militant origin. Time to couple up, family up, build up the thing right now. So anyhow, we return to the story. The loyalty of Empress Menen is legendary because, as I said, her family was in opposition to the Dejazmatch TAFARI ascending to the throne, because the throne was promised to her uncle, LIDJ. And LIDJ was being courted by the Turks, the Ottoman Turks, and the Germans. This was during global war in Europe, around the same time as World War I. And so all this intrigue is happening. And LIDJ has a dream, allegedly, to unite the Muslims and the Christians. So he also has lineage. His father was a powerful Muslim, Muhammad Ali, before he was converted forcibly by Emperor Johannes Casamercha. And I did a video on Casamercha. Check back in the catalog. It's also in Haile Selassie's Ethiopia, this history that I'm talking about. So LIDJ, is looking at his father, he's looking at his mother, he's saying, I have the Solomonic bloodline on this line. There's bloodline coming from the Muhammad bloodline, unification and restore. So he had a great vision. However, in Ethiopia, to sit on the throne of David, you have to put Yeshua, the Christ, first. There's no, I have a song, The Way Rastafari Crown, I talk about it.
Me come fi tell them about Holy Palace intrigue, infighting between Solomon seed. Well, Empress tried to want her family to lead. Well, King Michael want him son to lead, but King Michael now watch the orphan married to him niece, who get up every day and a study and a read. He work and he pray every day. He achieve. Them say you're the leader. Every nation need a just the way Rastafari crown. Unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down to far right. It's uncle you. Me come to tell them about the Rastafari crown. Unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down to far right. It's uncle you. Well, Ras Michael, son was having a good time when he should mind the affairs of the state, cause he's descent from the great line of Menelik II. But he's stepping on toes of his elders, treat his women like hoes, he exposed. Now we working with the Ottoman Turks, say he's descending from Muhammad, but that's not how this works. See, the crown was anointed by the Orthodox Church, so if you are ruling as I don't have to put Christ first.
Talk about Muhammad, that's a disqualifier, and he was excommunicated because there was evidence presented that he was Islamic or showing some outwardly Islamic signs, and the church excommunicated him. And then Empress Aditi, who was Menelik's daughter, and Dejazmatch TAFARI was given the title of Ras and heir to the throne. So basically he now is looking to sit on the throne. So this caused great conflict. So you can imagine his wife, family, his wife's family, his uncle, her grandfather, her family, she would be taken care of. But she chose to stand with her king man, Rastafari. And served him in such a manner where unquestionable. This is the type of queen, and she was an asset to him. When you read the autobiography, you get some testimony, and then in other works, you get testimony about how Empress Menen, when at one time when His Majesty was being accused of betrayal against Empress Zaiditu, who was Menelek's daughter, and trapped His Majesty, and Empress Menen came with the army, His Majesty private army, led the army, surrounded the place, and allowed for her kingman to exit that day with his life, and also that show of strength. But that's a queen that's there who can anticipate. Don't hear from our kingman concern. We're not going to be a victim. We're going to mobilize. But at the same time, you try find 3 or 4 speeches of Empress Menen. It's difficult. She's not out there in the front trying to be seen, trying to be heard. She works quietly. She's building schools.
On October 4th, 1930, Empress Menen opened the doors to the Empress Menen School for Girls. Girls from all over the empire were brought to the Empress Menen School to receive a modern education. The first of its kind, the Empress Menen School for Girls provided Ethiopian girls with equal access to a modern education, which had previously only been available to boys in Ethiopia. Now, in addition to learning household skills, were given an education that allowed them the opportunity to stand side by side with their male counterparts as active life partners. Some of the young women educated at this school went on to further their education abroad and became administrators, company directors, and members of parliament. To raise the standard of handicrafts in the country, Menen later expanded the school to include training in useful trades such as rug making, spinning and dyeing of wool and cotton, weaving, silverwork, woodwork, and basket making. Classes were state-of-the-art for the time. Classes were also taught in French, and subjects included the sciences and mathematics, as well as household management, dressmaking, and physical training. When this girls' school was established, there was strong opposition to women's education in Ethiopia. This was due to popular opinion that an educated woman would not look after the house, while prejudice held that the husband of a literate wife would not live long, as his spouse would resort to curses and other wicked practices to kill him. On April 26, 1954, after 2.5 decades of delivering education and vocational training to countless deserving students, the Empress Menen Girls' School celebrated its 25th anniversary. The Emperor and the Empress, as well as thousands of others, attended this celebration. What a joyful occasion for Empress Menen to know that so many young women from all over Ethiopia had been educated at a school with first-rate facilities. In the years since its official opening in 1930, many girls have managed to complete their education here and have proceeded to attend higher education and gain employment in governmental offices and in the private sector. What a joyful occasion for Empress Menen to know that so many young women from all over Ethiopia had been educated at a school with first-rate facilities, and that several alumni of the school had contributed to the development of the country. The school's curriculum exposed women for the first time to the sciences, while the art and handicraft departments of the school were instrumental in improving and expanding the traditional heritage of paintings, as well as fabric and garment production.
She's building health centers. She's building churches. She had the church where the Ark of the Covenant rebuilt. She abolished child marriage in Ethiopia, worked hard to end that practice that she herself had suffered. So Empress Menen was such an example during the war, mobilizing the nurses, speaking out against war. This was Empress Menen, perfect helpmeet, or helpmate, black print for the Rastafari woman.
The Empress ordered the translation and publication of 14 sacred books. The proceeds of the 3,800 copies sold, which amounted to 12,000 Ethiopian birr, were donated to St. Paul's Grammar School for disadvantaged children. The Empress also donated a large plot of land and houses from her mother's estate in the Kofa area to this school. Also that year, Their Majesties opened the first teaching hospital in Ethiopia.
So on this time of her Earth Strong, let us celebrate Empress Menen, elevated to the highest heights by our Kingman, and also this concept of the Redeemer. I meditate on this because His Majesty was in a position to redeem his Empress Menen from a life of misery, because all of these child marriages, she was not happy, and we can see even as she progressed in life, she had health challenges, and a lot of these things, if we trace them forward, it probably could trace forward to, the life that she lived as a young child. It could not have been an easy road. So the fact that she was able to link with TAFARI and the love that they shared, they demonstrated. There was another incident where His Majesty almost drowned and Empress Menen was on the way to her brother's funeral. One of her brothers died, and instead of going to the funeral, she turned around her caravan. And this is before cars, this is before roads, this is riding on horses and donkey, months to get to where we're going. She turned back around when she heard about our Kingman almost dying, and went to attend to him, make sure she nursed him forward to health. So throughout her life, she always put His Majesty first. There was no questions. The type of character and the life they lived and the joy that they shared, She couldn't stay with him in exile in England because the weather didn't agree with her. And she stayed in Jerusalem, where she also gave up her crown, because of praying for her people and saying that she would give up her crown if Ethiopia was restored. That crown was the crown eternal that was placed on her head. And, through all of this time, we see that Empress Menen left the physical form in 1961. His Majesty have a famous speech where he spoke about Empress Menen. We'll put some of that here in the episode as well. But we never see His Majesty remarry. We never see him with another sister after that time, publicly. The respect that Empress Menen hold, is beyond reproach. And that's the example for my brethren that we want to aspire to. So we have to look for these qualities in a sister. Can't just be that she pretty or she sexy or just because she like you. No. Look for these qualities. Is Empress Menen put her life on the line for her Kingman and to fulfill his vision, and they reach the highest of heights that can be reached on this earth. King of kings and Queen of queens. So let this be an example. We have to give thanks for our Empress Menen. We have to give thanks for the example that she has laid eternally for the Rastafari woman as a feminine woman. This is something that is, a big point of contention with modern women of today. They become very masculine. We have a black print of a feminine woman, royal. You can't find a picture of Empress Menen in no pants. Highly educated woman, you know what I mean? So it's not because she was educated she's masculine. No. You can be strong, not because she was feminine she was weak. No. She exuded strength. She exuded femininity. She was not in the front, always have to be heard. Her strength was quiet, nurturing, motherly. And we're not saying that women must not be vocal, but that don't mean that they need to be out in the front. Every woman needs to do that, or that would have to put that pressure for the sister and them to be on the front line. No, they are capable. But we need our sister, and particularly as Rastafari brethren in the home, caring for our youth, schooling our youth. We have no schools. We have no infrastructure for the youths, and the outcomes are self-explanatory when we look at our youths and the retention rates of our Rastafari youths. We have to provide the space for them to be within their full feminine nurturing selves as brethren. Time to hold the line. Step up. I'm a Gideon. Time to reveal who you are in this time. So that's the episode. We're bigging up Empress Menen for this episode. If you have any sounds on Empress Menen you would like to share them in the comments. We are marching forward to 1,000 subscribers. The aim is to monetize the channel so that we can grow the content. The aim is to bring front line of repatriation of an authentic Rastafari voice. We are building the Rastafari brethren to lead a prosperous Rastafari future. You know, the channel is mostly brethren, so we take on the responsibility. Sistren are welcome, and we need Sistren here because we need the voices of the Sistren to balance. So I give thanks that my first 2 people in the Lion Pride and Patreon was a brethren and a Sistren, so that to I was like the divine blessing, you know. The 2 of them I get lonely now, so we need more ones in the Patreon, but we give thanks that that balance is there, although the audience is 95% male. But we're building, and we're going to take our time and build so that we can, you know, go to Ethiopia. I would love to go to Wollo and see where Empress Menen was born, and, you know, bring all of them things there to the Lion Voice family and these kind of things, you know, as we build up the infrastructure. So invest in the platform and we will bring the content. Also remember, we have signed, you can get a signed copy of Haile Selassie Ethiopia, The Rise of the Priestly Warrior Kings. This is my first book. I wrote it like you would write an epic fantasy, like a Game of Thrones, like a Lord of the Rings, but about Ethiopian history. So all real facts, but we wrote it, you know, from the perspective of some of the characters and going into some of the history. So read it, let me know what you think. We're going to start working on volume 2 very soon. Again, join the Patreon if you want to support these works. And we have a lot more content coming. I'm traveling, so we'll have some more exclusive interviews on the Lion Talk. We're gonna be doing some more topics on Lion Law. So just stay tuned, because the time has come for the Lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion Voice.
Lion Voice. Yeah. Well, Haile Selassie the first of the Almighty. And this is the Dejazmatch. Well, the Global Groundation, this one is for the black family. Well, since we're talking about the queens then, would I have to talk about Empress Menen? Well then, man a big up all him girlfriend, not say nothing about Empress Menen. Well then, go on chant until the world end. Would I have to talk about Empress Menen? Well then, all the girls we defend, have to talk about Empress Menen. Well then, married in 1911, with a love that come from heaven. Well then, you can tell all of your brethren, she raised Haile Selassie children. Then, and she never deviate, never complain when the king a work late. Always have food up on the youth template. Oh, what a joy to see a smile on her face. So full of grace that she the Vatican hate. Well then, all the people rejoice, Empress Menen are the children's choice. Well then, since you're talking about the queens then, would I have to talk about Empress Menen? Well then, a man a big up all him girlfriend, not say nothing about Empress Menen. Well then, if we chant until the world end, would I have to talk about Empress Menen? Well then, all the girls we defend, have to talk about Empress Menen. Well then, Well, LIDJ so daddy come with a dirty plan fi come destroy the family. One come separate the king from the queen. With the Ottomans him come set up a dirty scheme. King Rastafari ride and come in and destroy those boys. We try intervene. Empress Menen so pure and clean. Haile Selassie I me know say him a the supreme. Tell Babylon say ya dream them a dream. We come fi burn down them romance scheme. Well then, since you talking about the queens then, half it about Empress Menen. Well then, coulda chant until the world end. Half it about Empress Menen. Well then, a man a big up all him girlfriend. Nah say nothing about Empress Menen. Well then, all the girls we defend. Half it about Empress Menen. Well then, Queen Mother for the earth. Remember she gave Haile Selassie youth birth. World War II she was so hard at work. Heal all the soldiers when they get hurt. So full of grace she dressed up in a long skirt. Use her money to build school and church. Just a smile on her face that make me know what life's worth. Well then, all the people rejoice. Empress Menen are the children's choice. Sila.